Welcome back to Open Window Politics. Today we're going to be doing a prediction on the Senate level. We're going to be going through each of these swing states. We'll be going through the likely, lean, and then tilt rating. So as you can see right off the bat, Democrats are at 43 seats to Republicans 47. These are just with the states in the safe column predicted and called. So as you can see, pretty good setup for Republicans. Democrats would need to win at least 7, or well, actually 8 to break the tie in the Senate. That J.D. Vance would be the tie-breaking vote if it were a 50-50. So for the rest of the Trump term, it would be in the Republicans' column if it turned out to be a 50-50 map. So Democrats would have to win 8 more seats, which is going to be a tall ask. So we'll be going through each of these states. I'll start out with the likely ones for the Democrats. So for the Democrats in the likely category, I think there is going to be a couple, 1 or 2. So Minnesota, I think, is most likely going to be in the Democratic Party's column. And then there will be 1 more, New Hampshire, also in the Democratic Party's column. So that brings Democrats to 45 to Republicans 47. But I haven't predicted the likely Republican states. So as you can see, there's a bit of an interesting map here. We have the usual likely Republican states being Texas. So that is going to be 1 in the likely Republican column. And then we have 2, Iowa and Nebraska. For a while, Iowa has, not as of late, but in the past has been a swing state. Obama was able to win it. And it has shown an openness to voting for Democrats, especially in the House elections throughout in the state. But in general, the state is going to be fairly hard for Democrats to win on the state level. So I'm going to put the state of Iowa into the likely column. There is 1 more state, let's see here, I think there's 1 more in the likely column. This is going to be the state of Nebraska. Nebraska is in a bit of an interesting situation where an independent is running against the Republican, and if it were to be a Democrat, I think it would probably be in the safe category. But this independent, Dan Osborne, he ran in 2024 and performed pretty well, better than Harris did in the state, of course. So I do think that would narrow it up, but ultimately I don't think it would be enough to win the state of Nebraska. So that is going to be in the Republican Party's column. And with that brings us to 45 to 50. So even with just the likely states characterized, Republicans are going to hold the Senate for at least 2 more years. Democrats would need to win all of these to be tied, and even then they wouldn't control the Senate because, like I mentioned earlier, J.D. Vance would be the tie-breaking vote. So Democrats are in a rough situation, most likely won't control the Senate. But for now, we'll be going to the lean states. So I'm going to start out with the lean Republican states. So I do think we've got 1 of those being the state of Ohio. This state is fairly consistently in the Republican Party's column. There is a Democrat, Sherrod Brown, who lost his re-election bid in 2024 and is hoping to win not his seat, but the other Ohio Senate seat back, and he's fairly popular. So I do think that will narrow up the race, but ultimately I don't think it would be enough for Democrats to prevail and win the state. So for now, I'm going to put that in the lean category. Nonetheless, fairly impressive. Generally, Ohio is in the likely category, so I do think that Sherrod Brown would narrow it up, but I don't think it would be enough to win the state, per se. And then we will be going, that should be all of the lean and likely states. We'll be going to the tilt states now. So these 4 states are really going to be the ones that determine they don't determine Senate control, but most of these are going to be in the tilt column. I'll start out with Georgia. I do think in Georgia that Democrats are fairly well positioned, that it would be a Democratic victory. This is John Ossoff's seat. He's fairly popular, and generally the midterms are a fairly bad election for the party that is in power in the White House, and for that is, of course, Trump and the Republican Party. So I do think Democrats will do fairly well in the local states that are within that are more swing states. So I'm going to put the state of Georgia into the Democratic Party's column. Georgia also had some elections in 2025 that proved to do quite well for the Democrats on the state level. So I do think Democrats should be optimistic about their chances in winning in Georgia. And so I predicted it to be a tilt blue. And then we have a bit of an interesting case here in the state of North Carolina. I'm going to put it in the tilt blue column too. This state has a popular former Democratic governor who is running for the Senate. He is probably one of, if not the best pick Democrats could put forward to win in the state of North Carolina. I believe his name is Roy Cooper. I could be wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I am. But he is running, and most likely at the moment is looking like he would probably be the victor in the state of North Carolina. So Democrats pull a bit of an upset there and are able to flip a seat. And that should be the first flip seat for Democrats. All the other ones have been holds. So that is going to be one more seat for the Democrats, so at 51 to 47. And then we get to Michigan. I do think Michigan will be a close election right now, just because it is, like I mentioned earlier, the national environment is pretty good for Democrats. We've seen Democrats outperform in the special elections we've seen recently, and in general, especially in the 2025 elections that saw victories in, well, as you can see here, they're blue states, but New Jersey, Virginia, and then, of course, New York City, where Mondani won. So I do think that, in general, the environment is looking pretty good for Democrats, which is why most of these battleground states are going to end up in the tilt blue column. So that is going to be 48 to 51. So there's one Senate seat left. This is the seat in Maine. This is Susan Collins' seat. She has been in the Senate for quite a while and has usually outperformed the polls. She's been able to beat her Democratic challengers by fairly consistently, even though they've been pretty strong challengers on the Democratic side. So I do think that she will probably outperform the polls again. I don't think this time that it will be enough to secure a victory, though that it will probably narrow up from what the polls are showing, but nonetheless that it would be in the Democratic Party's column. So that is going to be in one more, that is going to be the second seat flip for the Democrats. So that's going to result in 51 for seats for the Republicans to 49 for the Democrats. Feel free to agree or disagree with me in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.